I have listened to Dance Devil Dance for the first time today. Managed to get the entire album in on my drive home. Dude, it is a really, I mean, obviously it's really good, but it's really quite varied. There's a lot of different colors in this.
Oh yeah,
There was going from blast beats on what is it, Clouds Dipped in Chrome to
yeah.
an almost new metal riff on the beach, and then
Hmm.
you even snuck in some outlaw country on Train. Like,
Hmm.
was it your intention from the outset to have such a varied release?
We always end up doing that to some degree. Actually, intention on this one more than anything was to be more focused. Song by song is still very eclectic, but I think if you zoom in on each song individually, I think they're more coherent and cohesive than what we have been doing in the past to really own in every time on one specific emotion or one specific vibe and doing less of a roller coaster within a song and rather have the roller coaster be from song to song. So in that sense, it's more focused in my mind. Um, at the same time as yeah, we don't really have a formula beyond that. Black Sabbath are great, so you try to come up with the best riff you can, and then the best riff becomes the best riff because you figure out what the drummer is supposed to do with that. Once you have that, you go with the vibe of the song. Beyond that, there's little formula. I mean, we like good choruses. That's about it. And then, I mean, we are big time Beatles fans, big time Queen fans as examples of bands that, um, I mean, compare Another One Bites the Dust to Bohemian Rhapsody to I Want to Break Free and Radio
Mm.
Gaga. Just go through that Queen catalog and how vastly different things are from each other and how somehow they always manage to sound like Queen. It's because, the DNA of the players are there. And we're not nearly as gifted or talented or skilled as they are and were, meaning we're stuck with sounding like ourselves no matter what we try stylistically. That's the reasoning behind it. Um, so we just go with what we need to do. And again, referring to let's if you keep comparing us to much better bands with the Beatles, yeah, that crazy evolution that they had, if you really look at the timeline and how so much of it was based of it's seeming they seeming to be always very excited about learning new stuff and immediately utilizing it. That there's a creative hunger in that group uh, that we identify with a lot in terms of when you learn a new little trick or a new way to express yourself or something, then you want to make a song out of it immediately.
It's interesting what you were saying, mentioning Queen. I joke with my wife that I don't think they knew what a B-side was. Like, everything was just,
Mm.
they're a band that just only does A-sides. Their quality was
Mm.
control was that high. And I kind of get that impression with you. Like, was there a lot of stuff that ends up in the bin, like that just gets cut
Yes.
away?
Yeah, always. And I think that part of the process is something we get better at because so we are very democratic and very collective. Our process is very much about the collective when we put together what is actually Avatar. But there are kind of three of us that tends to be the ones that start songs that come with those initial riffs and stuff. Me and the two guitar players, Tim and Jonas. Um, then depending on which album, it varies who ends up with the most actual ideas on the end of the album that comes and goes in waves. Uh, but the important thing that always happens is when one of us get excited about the other guy's riffs and kind of steal them, you know, and what because they want to do something with it. That's that's where the magic happens. And but initially, because it's a very the process starts in a very open-ended way, and then you kind of the funnel gets tighter and tighter, and things fall to the wayside. But I might have had like three different directions that spontaneously came about while making my batch of stuff for Dance Devil Dance, where you had this on one end There was some stuff that kind of felt like psychedelic, almost progressive, doomy folk music, which sounds exciting when you say it out loud like that. And then there was some stuff that kind of lead into uh, futuristic, dystopian, cyberpunk black metal. And then you have uh, this satanic celebration kind of turning heavy music into something you can dance to, and the other guys also had their separate piles, kind of trying things out, and you kind of start to figure out which of my piles fit with which of your piles of ideas,
Mm.
and from that you start to build that big molehill of of what becomes the album. So uh, so with that, there are some ideas. First and foremost, you take whatever is the best stuff that you actually are able to, that you make it work and have it make sense with each other. Where you can kind of, once we have enough songs to talk about, we can actually talk about what kind of album we're making. And we wanted it grittier than last time. We wanted more mid-rangey instead of as low-ended, less slick, more room mic on the drums, more recorded in more primitive settings, so that it, so that you feel the blood, sweat, and tears truly, that you hear that in the production as much as in the songs, and we start to shape the attitude, and that you should be able to shake your butt also when we're blasting. So what does that mean? Well, it means certain tempos, for instance, that there are way faster blast beats than there is on Klaus and Chrome, but I think there's also, if you in there's a certain tempo that feels kind of old school nowadays, with that kind of extreme drumming that just feels to me always more violent, as
Mm.
compared to when you're really, if you really hit those extreme tempos that you can do now, that people do nowadays, and especially with modern production where it sounds very clinical and stuff. Maybe there's a lack of danger in that many times,
Mm. I def
where old school death metal danger fits better with good times rock and roll in many ways, I think, than the ultra speedy things fit with I don't know what. So it's laying that puzzle between what everyone brings to the table.
yeah, I was kind of picturing your stage show as the album was progressing, and yeah, when Clouds Dipped in Chrome kicked in, I was like, this is the part of the set where the crowd just beats the absolute ever loving shit out of each other for 3.5 minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah, mm.
correct.
um, much has been made of the Avatar stage show. Who do you reckon has the best stage shows in the world these days?
Oh, these days we do.
Nah.
uh, no, because I've been looking at footage of course, you get, the craze in heavy music. We got to talk Rammstein nowadays, right? Where there's a small village of stuff, or maybe more of industrial area come to life on stage, in their case. But I think there's this kind of arms race where I don't know if we lose the plot a bit. That there's what's the economic word? Inflation going on, and just and kind of sensory overload that maybe kills some humanity. I haven't I haven't been I haven't been able to see one of those current Rammstein shows. I never saw them live. I've seen them on film.
Hmm.
But if you put them and then footage or things I hear or seen about Coldplay, and then maybe the crazy example at this point would be what's her Taylor Swift. Those huge mega pop stars, and it's like, where is where's the sweat? I mean, they sweat a lot to perform that, I'm sure, but where you connect so much through media and special effects that maybe you lose the shake the ass parts a bit. Uh, and I think because we are much poorer than Taylor Swift, and we also don't charge $2,500 by 11-year-old girls to go and see us. Um, it we're limited, so we still have to rely on facial expressions and all of that. And because I think ultimately if in the grand scheme of things, we belong to some kind of high production value theatrical genre of performing. And in that, while doing that, you still have to remember there's a rock and roll show underneath, you know. There's a dance hall 1950s Elvis shaking the hips, the girls are fainting part of it that has to be there as well. Otherwise, it's just a superhero movie, and I'm so tired of superhero movies. Um, but I mean, historically, what we've been looking at is Rammstein is definitely one of them. Kiss, Cooper, um, and Michael Jackson. And I learned such an awesome little tidbit fact about that kind of leans into that point of focus on humanity, is that his stages were, he did some Grammy or something where the stage was all black, and that really upset him because he had black shoes, which is where the white socks came from, to just be visible, to make his footwork visible. And Michael Jackson tour, like if you look, it's on YouTube, that I grew up watching over and over again, his Bucharest performance on the Dangerous tour. The stage is great because then you see the shoes and the socks and the feet, and thus you see the moonwalk and everything else, which is, you know, focus on the human performance within the big spectacle. And you need a bit of both. So that has influenced us a lot. Iron Maiden, a ton. Um, and that's also, I think, the main place where the physicality comes, the whole run and jump around. I mean, I'm not as good at jumping as Bruce Dickinson still is at his age. And I'm also taller, way taller, which makes it look a lot more like a moose lost out on the ice on some lake when I kick around. And, you know, I break things. Our stages are smaller, my legs and arms are longer, so it's bad idea all around. But that being said, that, you know, you want to physically, you want your body to match the expression of the music. That's very much an Iron Maiden thing to me. And then Judas Priest. And I get, in every cycle of when we work on new things, my relationship to Judas Priest keep on getting deeper. That's what I study the most, I feel, because there's you know, an amazing catalog of songs and amazing stage builds and all of that, of course, and the different things they have brought on stage and the outfit changes and turning the glamorous prima donna into something that fits in a very heavy setting. There's no one like Rob Halford in that. But also what he does and the whole band really, but of course, especially Rob Halford as a frontman, that also when not so much is happening, how to carry oneself, how to, you know, how to radiate that charisma that is, you cannot teach charisma per se, but there's still something about posture and carrying yourself and pacing to really whatever you got to bring that to communicate that, to radiate that I'm still learning. I don't know. You asked a question that I have a lot to say about. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
I was watching some footage from the Doors playing late '60s on festival somewhere, and Jim Morrison is just they jam and stay on the intro riff forever while he's pacing the stage slowly before jumping up to the mic and screaming. And then it's like when the music's over, is the song I guess to start with. And to be able to do that, to through slow motion create that intense moment of intimacy and concentration, but that is the exact opposite of an Iron Maiden performance. I try to learn that now, but so the influences come from a lot of places, I guess is short answer.
You mentioned Maiden. I wonder, when the likes of Metallica and Maiden finally retire, who do you see as taking over that mantle?
I mean, you have to look at a festival billing and see, you know, who's ready to jump onto that next step. I wouldn't mind to see Gojira there when there's a great case from them doing that. They've been really able to connect to a very wide audience with something that's rooted in something very extreme and different. And I mean, you can trace roots back to a lot of good stuff prior to them. Of course, I hear a lot of Morbid Angel, I hear a lot of Dan Townsend, I hear a lot of Opeth and stuff, of course, but still they're completely their own thing. And in a way that they are able to turn all those things that could be, that isn't, it's not easy listening, right? It's not Donna Summer. But at the same time, create something extremely communal and that massive amount of people seem to be able to connect with. So they are up there. And then, I mean, I want to believe that we are right behind them in certain places of the world, so we just keep climbing the same ladder, all of us. But that's a band I can see us next in line.
Hmm. I got to see them for the second time late last year, and it was about it felt like it was about 60 degrees Celsius, and they're like it was absolutely.
Mm.
But no one sounds quite. Yeah, they have that Slayer or that Motorhead gene of you can just recognize them instantly. Like they
Yes,
sound
exactly.
utterly unique.
And also how they play is just one of the greatest rhythm section in metal that also operates like a rhythm beyond, I don't know, like very imaginative and also very like stuff that I think about and we think about as a band a lot in our own way. To remember a rhythm section creates rhythm. Rhythm is there to create movement. If it's done right, it makes people move. Um, and to apply the same truths that go in any other genre, if it's big band jazz or reggae or whatever you want, to also remember that when you play really, really heavy stuff that is so focused on worshiping the guitar, um, I think Gojira has that in droves, which is also, I think, a thing that makes it work so well and so much better than a lot of stuff.
Awesome. Mate, thank you very much for your time today. This has been awesome. Yeah, congratulations on the album. It is
Thank
fantastic.
you.
And
Thank you very
yes,
much.
I will hopefully be seeing you in Brisbane not too long from now.
Can't wait. No, we're very close now. It's less than a month, and it's you know, the sales pitch to go on record with. But it's I only say things I feel is that we haven't been better, and at any point of time before this. This is the best we've ever been on stage. That was a hard sentence to get out. So if there's any time to see us, it certainly is now. And I mean, we do intend to be even better next year and the year after that. But it's a good time to see Avatar, and this is the first time we get to go to Australia. So yeah, certainly hope that people show up and make it so we can come back over and over again. We don't want this to be a one-time thing.